Hello everyone, welcome to Barca News. It is June 25th, 2023, and it's reported that Barcelona are seriously interested in Dani Parjeo as a possible replacement for Sergio Busquets. Also, it seems that the club are still considering the option of Joao Cancelo, and there's now new interest in Barcelona's midfielder Nico Gonzalez. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Mo, and I hope that you're having a great weekend so far. And as always, before we begin with the news, I just want to remind you to make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way in helping this channel continue to grow. Also, if you are looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure you hit the kickback. The link is down below in the description. Now we begin with the news that after it was reported that Marcelo Brozovic was seriously considering joining Barcelona, Italian media are now reporting that the Croatian midfielder is very close to agreeing to a move to the Saudi club Al Nassr. Now, Brozovic was already negotiating with a move to the Saudi league until Barcelona made a call to the player to inform him that the club were very much interested in signing him as a possible replacement for Sergio Busquets in that pivot position. And that's when the player decided to put all negotiations with Saudi club on hold, because he was seriously considering joining Barcelona. Now, Barcelona informed the player that they would need more time in order to offload players in order to clear space on the wage bill before they can make him any guarantees that they'd be able to sign him and also register his contract. And it seems that just like Sofyan Amrabat, Brozovic was not willing to wait for the club, and it now seems like he will be joining the Saudi club once again. Now, it seems that the Saudi club did up their offer to Inter Milan, offering them around 25 million euros for the signing of the Croatian midfielder. And they have offered the player around 30 million euros salary per season. So this is, of course, a lot more money than Barcelona can ever dream of offering the Croatian midfielder, who seems like will be joining Al Nassr after all. Now, as I reported previously, the option B for Barcelona in case they couldn't land Marcelo Brozovic was Oriol Romeo, and now that Brozovic seems like he will be joining the Saudi league, seems like Oriol Romeo has become more of a possible option for Barcelona. Now, in case you don't know who Oriol Romeo is, he's the 31-year-old defensive midfielder who currently plays for Girona, and he's someone who came up through the Barcelona academy, so he's very familiar with the Barcelona style of play. And Barcelona consider him a low-cost option replacement for Busquets, since he does have a 10 million euro release clause that Barcelona think could negotiate it down to 5 million euros. Now, Oriol Romeo is not Barcelona's favorite option to replace Busquets. He's more of a short-term solution, because Barcelona think that he could give the club good performance for at least 2 more seasons, which would give Barcelona more time to create more space on their wage bill, generate more money, and be able to make a bigger investment in the pivot position, or perhaps signing a younger pivot who then would give Barcelona would have more time to prepare this pivot to become a starter. Now, having said that, I do want to address the point, because I see a lot of people commenting that Barcelona should sign the likes of Fabrizio Diaz so he can be Barcelona's pivot. However, Barcelona are looking for a pivot who's ready to become a starter, not someone who needs training and needs adaptation. So if Barcelona do sign Fabrizio Diaz, which the club are very much interested in the player, it would not be for him to come and become Barcelona's starter. That's simply a lot to ask of an 18-year-old who's only played in Euroweight and has never played in European League. So Barcelona want a pivot who's ready to become Barcelona's starter on day one, not someone who still needs to adapt and learn the Barcelona style of play. So Oriol Romeo could be that option that would allow Barcelona to either save more money, clear more space on the wage bill, and make a bigger investment in the pivot, or perhaps sign someone like Fabrizio Diaz, because then they would have at least 2 more seasons to try to prepare the player to be Barcelona's future pivot. Now, speaking of the pivot position, the media outlet Relevo have released a report stating that Barcelona are seriously considering signing Dani Parjeo as a replacement for Busquets. Now, Dani Parejo is a 34-year-old center midfielder who currently plays for Villarreal. And it's reported that the player has a release clause in his contract that would allow him to terminate his contract during the summer and leave his current club for free. And Relevo report that is why Barcelona are interested in the player, because he could be a free option for Barcelona. Now, I personally do not believe this report for several reasons. First of all, Dani Parjeo is 34 years old, so I don't see why Barcelona would want to replace Sergio Busquets with someone who's the same age as the player. Second of all, Dani Parjeo is very happy at Villarreal, and I don't see him wanting to activate that clause that would allow him to join Barcelona for free. And finally, Dani Parejo is not really a defensive midfielder, so I don't see Barcelona wanting to sign him in the pivot position, since that's exactly what Barcelona are looking for, someone who's a defensive midfielder, where Dani Parejo is more of a midfielder who kind of builds plays, moves the attack, but not necessarily defends. He usually has someone else who plays next to him who does those defensive duties. Now, as I reported before, Barcelona's number one objective for this summer is to reinforce the pivot, and they're looking to make a decent-sized investment into that position. But now that it seems that Barcelona could be signing someone like Oriol Romeo for 5 or maybe 10 million euros tops, then Barcelona could consider spending that money that they were thinking about spending on the pivot position on the right-back position, because Barcelona also need to reinforce that position. Now, Barcelona are still reportedly tracking the situation of Joao Cancelo, and Barcelona are interested in bringing the player to reinforce the squad. However, Barcelona are only interested in the loan deal, so it's reported that the club are in contact with Joao Cancelo's agent, Jorge Mendes, to see what the development of the player is, and if Manchester City do decide to loan the player, and Barcelona would be ready to make a move. Now, it's reported that Manchester City would prefer to offload Joao Cancelo permanently, because Pep Guardiola does not count on the player at all. And Manchester City are reportedly looking for around 50 million euros for the Portuguese fullback, which of course is out of the range of Barcelona. Plus, they don't consider that Joao Cancelo is a long-term solution, so there's no way they're going to be wanting to invest that much into him, even if they could afford it. So Barcelona are considering Joao Cancelo, but only if he comes on loan. Now, if Manchester City do agree to loan the player to Barcelona, Barcelona would have to ask Joao Cancelo to lower his salary, because he has a very high salary, and that would be kind of the second contingent on that would determine whether Barcelona would be able to bring Joao Cancelo to reinforce the squad. Now, the option of Ivan Fresneda is still a pretty real option for Barcelona, and as I reported before, the club have already met with the player's agents, but we still don't know whether Ivan Fresneda will be willing to come to Barcelona, and whether Real Valladolid, who just got relegated to the second division, would be willing to negotiate down the release clause of the player, which is worth 20 million euros. Now, as I've said many times before, in order for Barcelona to sign players, they need to offload players first, and there are many players on this list, including Barcelona's midfielder Nico Gonzalez. Now, Nico Gonzalez just spent the last season on loan with Valencia with no option or obligation to buy, and he currently has a contract with Barcelona until 2026. However, the club want to offload the player because Xavi does not count on Nico Gonzalez for several reasons, such as the fact that Xavi does not think that Nico Gonzalez is the right fit to replace Sergio Busquets in a pivot position. There are also many players in the midfield available for the midfields, and now with the arrival of Ilkay Gundogan, that would mean even less minutes for Nico Gonzalez. And finally, there is the problem with the discipline of the player, which I have talked about a lot in my previous videos. Now, it seems that Valencia have reached out to Barcelona asking to extend the loan of Nico Gonzalez for one more season, but they're not the only club who are interested in the loan. It seems that Real Betis have also reached out to Barcelona because they're also interested in taking Nico Gonzalez on loan. Now, again, Barcelona would prefer to offload Nico Gonzalez on a permanent basis, and they think that they can make around 10 to 15 million euros off the player. But if they do have to, then they will consider sending him on a loan and perhaps loaning him to Real Betis, where they can negotiate some kind of swap deal for Guido Rodriguez, who I talked about in a previous video, which Barcelona are considering as a possible replacement for Sergio Busquets. Now, we will end today's video with the news that Eldense drew with Real Madrid Castilla 3-3, and it was a 4-4 aggregate draw. And since Eldense ended higher on in their group of the third division, they will be moving on to the second division, with Real Madrid staying in the third division. Now, as you recall from a previous video, Real Madrid played against Barca Athletic in the semi-final of the playoffs for that promotion to the second division, and Real Madrid ended up winning 5-4 on aggregate against Barcelona, which meant that Barca Athletic remained in the third division, and Real Madrid Castilla went to the final of the playoffs to face off against Aldense. And now that both teams drew 4-4 on aggregate, and since Aldense did do better in the group, Aldense will be getting promoted to second division, with Real Madrid Castilla remaining in the third division alongside Barca Athletic. So that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give me a like. Also, I would like to invite all of you to please leave a comment down below, giving me all your thoughts and opinions about all the news that I share with you. And finally, I would like to invite all of you to please subscribe to the channel so you can stay current on all the latest news in regards to our beloved club, FC Barcelona. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video. And as always, peace, Barça.